This is coffee number 5. I'm your host, Lara. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to coffee number 5. You know, I'm always excited. I cannot say that every episode I'm excited because I get to talk to amazing people, and that normally I see them around. We talk for a little bit here and there, but never I can get that conversation, and I'm curious and I have all these questions. So I have the opportunity today to talk to someone that I met her 2-3 years ago, and then we were busy, life get in between. At that point, Kate Fannin, I'm probably said your last name wrong because I always do it. You were at Estée Lauder. But your trajectory is incredible. You were at Nimitz, you were at Nordstrom, at Gap, and I'm missing a few ones in between. But your experience, but not only that, your point of view it's unique. So let's first welcome. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here. You're
Thank
a
you.
really hard woman to nail down to a date, but we did it. I'm so
We
glad
did
you're
it.
here. And so something that really resonate with me from our first conversation after you were talking at Beauty Matter was, and this was, I'm talking about 2 years ago, probably 3 or 2.5. It was your point of view about the consumer and how everything is consumer centric. And I could not agree more about that, because everything I do in my agency as a marketer is see what are the consumer problems and to resolve them.
Yes, I completely agree. And I call myself the consummate consumer because I am always in stores, online, assessing, evaluating. I even had a friend tell me once, Kate, can we just shop? Can you stop profiling the store? Because I so appreciate how any customer engages, whether it's with a brand, a store, a channel, content, all of it. Everyone consumes a little bit differently, but the consumer point of view is number one at this point. Marketing isn't what it used to be in the sense that it was one way. Here's print, I'm showing it to you. Here's a commercial. Here's a billboard. Here's a radio ad. Now it's two way.
It
100% you
is.
have to listen to the consumer. If you're not
You're giving me
listening,
the chills. You are just saying the same thing I've been talking about for years and years. And now, actually, in this 2025, we are getting to the next level, which is SEO is everywhere. I mean,
mhm,
everything in the algorithm is going to be real. Like each platform, Instagram, TikTok, Amazon, everyone is a search engine in themselves. So you need to start using keywords, and this is how we need to approach to reach to our consumers.
100%. And the listening is key, as I mentioned. And the other piece is, they're shopping, like you said, everywhere. They're consuming everywhere. So it isn't even, it's beyond omni-channel. I don't even like that term anymore. It's channel agnostic. So the way people shop in online versus a store versus TikTok, it's not the same. And you have to think about not only your content, but your context. So the content you're developing, how are they receiving it? How are they engaging with it? Because a lot of online, frankly, not super exciting. It's replenishment or research. I think there's a ton of research going on, but that's one of my really what I should TM trademark is I say that people buy things, they pay for experiences. Very different. So you buy stuff when you go to the store or grocery or whatever, you buy stuff on Amazon, but you pay for an experience, whether it is an online engagement, whether it's trying the makeup on virtually, whether it's in store talking to a human, touching, smelling, trying, that's an experience. People will pay for that. Yeah.
That's so interesting you're saying this, because I'm reading a book completely, well, nothing is not connected anymore. Everything is connected. But it was telling the experience of a consultant who was hired to see why a store, and was a big name store, wasn't working, and what their sales were not bigger. They were not growing. And where was their failing? And they found out that the failing was actually in the sales process. that people that they go to a store, they are expecting to have a different experience. And the salespeople saying, hey, I don't want to approach because maybe I don't make the sale. So they weren't grading or approaching the customer for the needs or the experience that they expect by going to a store.
Well, and stores, even that has evolved so much. And how you work with a customer, engage with them, talk to them, as simple as saying, hey, welcome in. That makes a difference than just somebody
Huge.
walking in and you get the once over. That's a huge difference between whether I'm going to buy something or not. I recently went to I'm a knitter, so I was in a yarn warehouse basically, and it wasn't even that organized, yarn everywhere. But the guy who owns the store and is a knitting master was so lovely and so wonderful in teaching me and showing me and recommending this versus this. He was so authentic. I went in for one thing. Of course, I bought six or seven. I mean, because it was an engaging experience. I would pay for that
Uh,
versus here's
Absolutely.
one.
I
Yeah.
mean, let's agree, like products, for example, beauty products. We don't need
Hmm.
those beauty products. We want those beauty products, and but if someone can explain what they potentially can do for us or how to use it, and they make that experience, knowledge is power.
100%. And it's people looking are now looking for efficacy, right? What does the product
Hmm.
do for me, especially in beauty? And you can research everywhere, even if it's just your friends telling you, your friend posting, hey guys, I tried this and it's awesome. And that's how I post. I'm not an influencer, but I'll post something and say, this worked. I really recommend it. And my friends will say, I trust you, Kate. You've been in beauty a long time. Where else are they going to do compare all their research? So you will go online, and that's another thing that I stand behind really strongly that I heard, Jane Lauder was the first one who said it, but return on experience, ROE. You'll hear me say that every time I'm talking because you can't talk about just ROI anymore because I might go into your store or try one of your products, might take me a month, 2 months, 6 months to try more of that. But that is the experience that you return on versus she came in, she didn't buy, no ROI.
It's about,
Watch
yeah,
me.
it's experience, but even in digital, it's the same thing. It's about creating a pleasant experience. You
Yes.
need to, like in marketing, we talk about always those pillars. Those pillars are different kind of information that you're feeding your customer in little pieces at a time to get to know your brand and later on to make a decision. And this is for goes for new brands that even if you have a decent budget, not huge budget, and you're spending money every month, it's about the awareness and people to get to know the brand and to trust, and then see the difference with one product and try another one. And then when they become recurrent, then you need to maintain that client.
Yes, because you're right. I might have just tried one, but how do you get me to try more? How do you link sell? How do you get me involved further in the brand? And now with data everywhere, there's no excuse to say, well, we didn't reach out. We don't have your information. Nobody doesn't have my information at this point. It's too easy, whether it is through an email, which now seems kind of old, right? Getting an email
No, don't
promotion
touch my
versus
emails. I'm still an email believer.
I am too. Don't get me wrong, but I wish people would be a little more diligent about subscribing and unsubscribing because once you get too many,
Yes,
they don't look at anything. So I
I
think
know.
that's another area of opportunity for sure is how do you cut through in email?
I think
But
this is a brand's responsibility too, not to send emails to everyone all the time, just to send them to the people
target
that are
them.
engaging for you. Exactly.
Yes, yes,
And
it's the
it's
same
something
piece.
that I do all the time for my clients is I create campaigns. When you create the strategy, your strategy is not let's send emails to everyone all the time, is let's send emails to the ones who engage with us or they bought this product. So it's time to get to refill the product. It's to think
Yes.
it a little more through and not to be that brand that sends emails.
No, nobody wants to be bombarded because then it's noise. And you're right. With people that have engaged, even if they haven't purchased, that's engagement. You
Yes.
see the emails that say, "Oh, we saw that you were taking a look. We saw that you have this in your basket." I kind of like those. They remind me, "Oh yeah, I got distracted and I didn't." Or Why didn't I purchase? Did I find something else? Was I distracted, or did I get hit up with another ad or a better email? Those are all things that weigh into being a consumer. And if the brand or the retailer is not evaluating this, they'll be lost completely. They will not be gaining, they'll be losing market share because somebody else is going to take that space. If you're not listening,
I, I love that you mentioned that these are metrics that a lot of people forget to check. Like
yes.
how many people really put our product in the cart? That is an almost win, but it's not a win. Why did we fail to make the transaction?
hmm
So
Well, it's
how do
engagement,
you
a lot of
analyze
it.
that, Kate?
Well, some of it is, did you close? Did you close the loop? I still always use the example, and I love it, of a car dealership, right? Where you go in there, you're looking around, and it's a joke, but not really, when they say, what's it going to take to get you in the car today? What's it going to take to have you click buy or to walk up to the register in the store? Is it a point of purchase sale? If I think about the grocery, all the candy that's right there. There's a reason it's there. You're going to grab it and, buy it there too. So there's a reason that beauty products, they keep certain things at the register. I'm also a huge advocate of link selling and think it's a massive opportunity that, especially in beauty, they don't always follow through on, which is, you bought the lipstick. I might be new to beauty. Do I need a liner? Do I need a gloss? Do I even know what to do with those? You have to think further down the line of, great, I sold her a lipstick. What do I do next? Do
But
I need a
so
primer?
that lipstick will go really well with this liner, or this lipstick can, even you can go in social and you can, this is something that I'm a super fan, and it's collaboration. Like it's what brand that is not your competition. I don't believe in competition. I believe that there are room for everyone, and how we align. And you can align, let's say you are still there and maybe you align with Coco Chanel, and so you can put in social, say this will match with this, great, and it's
Yes,
aspirational, and
yes.
it's give it the people the whole look.
Well, look at in a brand like Elf. I mean, they have collaborated with Chipotle, for instance. I mean, they're all over the board. Mac, of course, has collaborated with tons of celebrities, singers, etc. Themes, Wonder Woman, all of those. And there's a comfort to that, especially if I'm new to a brand or I find it intimidating, but I know the collaborator. So again, that goes back to the experience of it. Or a lot of these things can be intimidating. So we mentioned the lipstick liner. Great. Take it a step further. What's the service? I don't know how to use those. I need a how to, whether it's online or right there in the store. Don't take it for granted that people understand just because you sold them a product, especially something like a serum. That's another one that I think even my friends, we're in our 50s, still say, and they're embarrassed to ask me, Kate, what's a serum? I don't really know what to do with it because it's out there, it's promoted.
I'm laughing because I have the same question asked to me so many times, and
Right.
you'll be surprised of people saying, "I really need a face cleanser." That's the one that is like, stop. Everyone needs
Oh,
a
oh,
face
a
cleanser.
cleanser?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and certainly young men. So my nephews, I try to educate them on skincare, and guys, don't be scared. You really only need a few products to start out, but please clean your skin. Please.
Yes.
You don't need 9 moisturizers and all these other things and under eye creams. You're only 20. But please clean your skin. And if you don't know where to start, I'll help you. You could start at CVS and we'll start
Yeah.
there. You don't have to buy Tom Ford. I mean, we can get you into this without being scary. But again, that's part of the service element for a customer. We have to break down these barriers. Just because there's all this information doesn't mean they know how to consume it. Doesn't mean they know exactly what to do with it. There's almost too
And
much
it doesn't
information.
mean that a brand that you buy it at CVS is not going to do for you what the Tom Ford brand does.
Totally.
I
Totally. I'm a
mean,
huge fan of drugstores.
Kate, why a consumer might choose to buy in CVS instead of Ford or the other way around?
Well, a lot, it depends on what's the need. And What are they exposed to already? Are their friends telling them this? Is crazy Aunt Kate telling them this? Are they seeing things online? Again, you're being hit up with ads everywhere. You're even seeing, product placement in TV shows. And I don't know if you're watching the show Landman, but clearly Michelob Ultra is doing a partnership with them. It's in every bar scene there. So it depends on how they're getting the information. But if some of it's just plain old budget. So I need to start with CeraVe. Fantastic. I'm a big, like I said, big fan of drugstores. And now the drugstore beauty section is really engaging. I mean, look at Target. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. I'll go wander around there anytime. And I'll bring friends in and say, let me show you how awesome Target Beauty and Target at Ulta have become. And now I'm finding that Sephora, for a lot of people, is overwhelming or it's too young. I'm finding that friends around my age, 40s, 50s, are saying, that's for my kids. I'll take her in and I'll buy her things, but it's not really where I
Yeah, it's
consume.
just too. I agree with you. There is just the experience is too much for the ones we know what we want and or what
Yeah.
we need.
And
But
we're in the beauty field and sometimes it's
yes,
overwhelming. And it changes so much too. That's the other thing. So, one thing I learned at Nordstrom is be cautious on how quickly you change, especially trends, because
yeah.
people don't consume as often as we are selling and promoting. They might buy beauty twice a year.
Yeah, well, that I think is a point that you just made about in that case, Sephora might be a little going too young, that people younger, they need the change more often. Older generation, we want more the classics, more that less options, and I want information. I mean, I
Hmm.
believe that now there are some trigger words that they are cruelty free. At this point, everyone should be cruelty free.
Yes,
At this point,
sustainability.
exactly. Everyone is trying for sustainability, clean beauty. Everyone should have the basic clean beauty standards. So it's like how we raise the bar, how we make the difference. I've seen so many brands, new brands, just doing the same over and over. It's like you
Yes,
cannot compete with the big brands. So what are you doing different? You need to do something
exactly.
either from your ingredients or your branding or something that will make you stand out from the crowd.
Well, or go one further is what problem are you solving for me? That's,
Yes.
it goes back to efficacy. So whether it is I have dry skin, well, there's tons of moisturizers out there. What makes yours different? Same thing with the collection of your products. If you have 19 products that say that they are good for dry skin, I'm out. I don't know where to start. So you have to be really diligent about how you are targeting and attracting consumers. I love that smaller brands start with 3 SKUs. You talked about this on a previous podcast. I think it's so true, especially if a founder is involved. They have such a passion, which I so admire and respect, but the marketing piece of it or the engagement piece of it has to think a little bit ahead. So, are we going to be adding to the line? Are we moving into another category? If your nails, nail polish, are you going to move into hand creams and further that go up the arm, if you will? If it's a face product, skincare, are you going to move into body product? Or do you want to stay small? So I think a big part of it is collection, if you will. What's the connection? So you have a big collection.
I
How am
I
I
always
connecting?
say I always say you have a brand if because you're working on the branding, you're working on the problem, you're working on who is your target audience and to resolve their problem, or you have a collection of products that you're selling, and that's completely fine. But also that will tell you where you can sell because unless you are Chanel or you're a big brand that you can really diversify and do it well everywhere, if you're a younger brand and you have a collection of products, you are going to miss that special thing that makes unique,
Mhm.
that is your hero, what you're known for.
Right. As a founder, sometimes you have one shot out of the gate. And for instance, if you launch with skincare, but then 6 months later, you've got some sort of nail polish, I'm confused. What is your focus? And you have to be
Yes.
passionate as a founder behind why you're launching this. What is it solving? Again, I go back to I've got a pain point that
And
I'm solving.
And as a founder, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to launch a
Yeah.
line. And if you
Hmm.
start going, working with labs, you're working with packaging, you're working with formulation, you're working with ingredients. There's so many distribution, 3PL, so many things that if you are starting to diversify and you don't have the support and the team, things are going to start falling through the cracks.
Yes, and ultimately, it's a passion project for a founder. You're going to work 24/7 because you believe in it and you want to stand behind it. And the storytelling is so important. And that's why, again, when you launch out of the gate, what is your perspective? Why is this going to market? Why is it being created? I think another example you gave in another podcast was about the science. Do you need to include the science? It depends on your target market. If somebody's 22 versus 62, it's a very different way of consuming. Very different. And how they research and what they want in the product, what they'll pay. Even the packaging has a huge impact on how they're
Absolutely.
engaging.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I love to work with brands from the very beginning. I
Mm,
love to work from the conception, and I don't believe, and we were discussing about this, that everything it should be a long process because trends are important of what's going on in the
yep.
industry. So you
Yep.
can't be waiting and trying to have the perfect product and take on it's never perfect because by the time you get it at the perfection, the time was gone. And you had
Yes.
20 other products that they're competing with yours. But I
Well,
believe
and with
that go ahead.
Yeah, and with a small brand, you have to be agile because you're competing against these larger brands that have been around forever, something in the L'Oreal space, something in the Estee Lauder space, where their, time to market is quite
Hmm.
long because
Yeah.
there's a huge workforce behind this in the lab and the science and the packaging and the levels you have to go through. Versus if you're five people and a founder, you better turn that around pretty quickly and you can be more agile as you get it to market. You might only be in two boutiques or on Amazon, but turn it around.
Also, because as a younger brand, you're not going to have access to the technologies or the pricing that a big brand has.
Sure,
And
you don't, yeah, you
it's
don't have
challenging.
the
So you need to be fast. Time is money.
very fast. But again, you can be super agile with nobody bought my brown eyeliner. I need to switch that up quick. And a little bit advanced, you're not usually over inventoried because you have to start small anyway. So it's almost like a pilot. You have the great advantage of putting a few things out there, see how they're consumed, who's buying them, and you can switch it around pretty
And
quickly.
also, let's talk about a few other things that there are regulations that change and
Hmm.
there are like standards that change. So
Hmm.
you might need to pivot or an ingredient that becomes unavailable. There's
Yes, and
so
now that
many
people are,
issues.
oh yeah, they're so aware of ingredients now, and customers know if you have an ingredient list of five versus 25. If I can't pronounce half of them, I might be a little reluctant, especially if it's coming from a smaller founder, smaller brand. So again, they're looking at everything, and the customer will
And
tell you.
And honestly, if you're a smaller brand, your marketing needs to be very tight. That's one of the biggest advice that I can give you. Your packaging needs to be beautiful and perfect and clean, and your logo needs to be clean. I've seen so many young brands having different logos in different places.
Mm-hmm.
That's not brand awareness. You're creating a
No,
confusion.
it's inconsistency, and ultimately, they don't know who you are or what you stand for. And you're right, if the site experience is extremely different from the package, or your own website is not the way that Amazon is depicting it, it's really confusing because people, as I said, they're channel agnostic. If I see your product, in the store and I know it and I've used it and that logo and the name, oh yeah, I'll pick one up. It's part of the story, and I think that's what is important with a founder too. Is what is your story? What do you stand behind? Whether it's three words or a paragraph, but stick with
And
it because the
And yeah,
customer will
of
learn.
course, I call that the brand story. For each one of my brands, I
Mhm.
create something that is a brand story. Who is our consumer? Where we found it? We know absolutely everything. What are the problems? And And then when we sign off on this brand story, this is our brand story and it's not going to be changed. And you need to
Yeah.
walk the talk. You
Yes.
need to,
And
you cannot say, I like tomatoes, I like tomatoes. I say, I know I don't like tomatoes. That you confuse your audience.
you do. And it's, I mean, that's part of your brand equity that people should be really proud of and that they want to stand behind. That makes a huge difference also on consumer loyalty. So if your story as a founder is strong and you always stick behind it, I'm a customer who loves your brand. I'm going to be one of your advocates. I'm going to talk about it on social. I'm going to tell my friends. I'm going to keep buying it. I'll give you feedback directly. It's you create your own marketing base with your customers if you have
Yes.
a consistent message and a consistent brand.
Absolutely. And but there is a lot more, and this is not only going for beauty brands, but goes for every brand. They need to be a passionate team. It's not only about the founder, it's about the whole team and whoever is involved in the process to make this brand. From the packaging, from your chemist, everyone needs to be in the same direction. So when you start a brand, and you can be a big company or you can be a small company, I don't care. Everyone needs to be on board with the same beliefs and to have the same understanding. I mean, you can have it from manufacturer. I believe that we have it in marketing. My SEO people need to understand the brand as the same as my designer, because otherwise they're going to be giving completely different messages.
So look at an example. This is a little bit out of certainly out of our realm is Chick-fil-A. Everyone
Yeah.
knows that you're going to get a super high level of service and down to the people in the store are so nice. All of them are nice and they're known for that. So that's part of their brand equity. Or Red Wing. I love Red Wing. It's a legacy brand started in sort of construction and boots and but it's very fashion forward if you sell it
Or,
right and stand behind
yeah.
it.
Or let's talk about Trader Joe's. That everyone is so friendly and they're gonna tell you how your day
Yep.
goes. And that's
Yep.
so part of the brand story too, of how you
Yes.
wanna interact with your consumer. So if
Yes.
you have a brand, you cannot forget how you're gonna talk to that person and how you're gonna talk to them in TikTok and how we're gonna talk to them in Instagram. That is what we mentioned before. In different channels, but you cannot lose who you are.
Exactly. And the same with the service level. So, for instance, Whole Foods, I believe their service level has declined since they were, kind
Yes.
of bought by Amazon and then pandemic didn't help them either. But I remember how special it was to go to Whole Foods and now it's not as special.
I felt like I
And
was going to Whole Foods and there were experts that I can talk to, like in the
yeah, okay.
vitamin areas. I felt like there was someone that I can really talk to. Now I
Yes.
don't feel that, even though that's not that quality. But there is something, I mean, you've been in working in companies that have stores, physical stores, and this is a
Yes.
challenge that I see a lot of brands having from
Hmm.
transitioning from D2C or to
Yes.
be little here and there to get into retail and then educating. Because to me, that's a whole different part of marketing that the brand is when you sign a partnership with someone, you need to start that part of marketing. You cannot just say, I'm done, now I got in.
You're so right, and I will always hold near and dear to me is stores because I grew up in stores, started on the sales floor, and I always encourage anybody that's going to work for a brand, you need to work in a store. You need to see how customers interact with your brand, and in fact, think about some of these large companies that I've worked for is are they in the store? Does leadership get into the store very often? I can tell you right now that Nordstrom does. The Nordstrom family was often in the store so that they understood what was going on. And in fact, I still fully respect their inverted pyramid, which means the customers were always on the top. Leadership was on the bottom of the pyramid because that's who comes first. And right below them were sales force, sales team, all the people that were sellers, highly respected because just as you said, if you're not engaging the salespeople and educating them, then again, you're going to be sunk because you want them to be passionate about your service, your product, your brand. That is a huge part of engagement. And I'll tell you that stores in general, they never went anywhere. They're still there and people say, "Oh, stores are back." Little fact, but during pandemic, online sales didn't really outpace stores in certain categories. They didn't, because stores are still super important. They're not going anywhere. They didn't go away. It's just a different way to handle that channel. Now, if you haven't updated your selling model in a store, you might be declining a little bit. But
Tell me a little more about what's this upgrade selling style. What are you
say that
talking
again.
about? When you're talking about this upgrading of the sales
That's the
flow.
link selling. So yeah, you start with, oh, you came in just for some shoes. Well, let me also show you the sandals in the same brand. Or am I selling you the socks and the boots and the insoles? You should be. Absolutely. Or at least show me. And that's another thing that Nordstrom did so well is they bring you out one pair of shoes, but I brought you two others that are similar or from a different brand. You're going to try all of those on. And going back to my yarn store example is if you are nice to me and you just chat with me and tell me more about your expertise or your brand. Gucci is the same way. There's a beautiful Gucci store in Soho in New York. Wow, are they engaging, but on a relatable level? And that is a huge part of it too. When you go into a store and there's four things hanging and it's all white walls and I don't even know where the register is, it's very intimidating. It's like a museum. I don't really know what to do in here. But if it is, hey, how you doing? Even if it's a luxury space, that's awesome. Or a Dyson store where you can use all the products. I should be able to try the products.
Well,
Otherwise, how do I know?
it's also about authority. These brands that you're mentioning, they all create their own authority. They work hard to get that authority, and that
Yes.
authority means credibility.
Yes. I
So
mean,
you
look at
go
Gap.
into the brand knowing that you're not going to go wrong. So there is
It's
no
right. It's
doubt.
tried and true. There's a reason they've been around. They've evolved. I look at Gap, who had a little bit of a dip, but now they're coming back by going back to their legacy and what made them so popular, and going back to that same marketing element. And what do we stand for? Denim. We're coming back around to that. Great. Look at J. Crew printing a catalog again. Awesome. So
I
people can
love that.
experience
I
it.
love to
I do
go.
too. A
I
lot
mean,
more are coming back to print.
I believe that there's so many marketers that actually they underestimate the power of printing and
Oh,
their on
I
the old
agree
school.
100%. I've even seen some D2C brands have sent me mailers, and I thought, wow, that's pretty impressive. So, and on a side note, I've even been at recent conferences and dinners where people have said, can I get your card? So people are going back to business cards
Oh
because once you're
yeah, I
bundling
mean,
with
I
LinkedIn
never
and
stop.
yeah,
There is an
yeah,
experience of giving a business card.
yeah.
A business card tells you so much of who you are and what you stand for, and because
Or you
it's
can make a note.
designed, yeah,
Yeah,
and
like
it's
we
only
met at Beauty Matter. Yep.
yeah, and also, for example, I wrote like when I gave a business card, I remember the experience of giving. It reminds you who gave it to
Mhm.
you.
Yes, that's why I think it's so smart to have them now. And I will write on it actually. Like we met at Shop Talk and it was at this dinner. Then you can follow up and I can write you an actual email instead of just a LinkedIn message, which sometimes you're
Absolutely.
limited. And so
And honestly, this been happening to me a lot. I'm the only one with business cards, and I need to find people later on in LinkedIn. And oh, did we meet? It's like it's not the same.
and that goes back to context.
Yeah.
Hugely important. And I think that's what we tend to forget in the online and AI world. And again, look how far we chatted without saying AI. So,
Yes.
points to us.
But that
But,
shows how old school we are.
see, I love it. I wouldn't call it old school as much as maybe authentic,
Okay,
analog.
authentic school. I love that.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
but well, as important I think AI is, and we use it, and I actually encourage my team to use it all the time because we
Sure.
cannot get behind. But I think we
Yeah.
still need to be the brain behind AI.
It's
But
non-negotiable. Yep.
I love what you were saying about context because the context is who your brand is, for who it's
Yes.
related, and you need to have part of that narrative. Like it comes from packaging, even
Hmm.
ingredients you're going to be using. For example, if you're going to be using a retinoid in beauty, you're going to want to think, okay, retinoid is for certain skin concerns or for mature skin. You're not going to go for a young brand.
No. Well, and think about a founder. What we were saying is if the founder is so passionate and wants to tell their story, if they go right to AI, it's not authentic. Because remember, and I think not enough people say this, is that AI is two dimensional, at least right now. Who knows a little bit later, but right now it's two dimensional. There's no emotion involved in it. And there's no more than a couple of senses, right? You can hear it, you can see it, but you can't smell it, you can't taste it, you can't touch it. So, especially in a beauty product, you can tell me a huge story in paragraphs about how we made this and the science behind it, and you'll love it, and even show me the pictures of it. I still can't smell it. I still can't touch it. So, we're not that evolved yet. So, I agree with you. AI is going to be table stakes. It's a non negotiable. It's going to change our world. Absolutely. So, we can't discount it, but we do have to put it in context. I liken it
Absolutely.
to when we launched the internet. Same thing. Everybody, whoa, it's going to change the world. It did, 100%. But
But
it
slowly.
took some steps. Yes, just like the iPhone. I think AI right now is about at an iPhone level 2. Remember when iPhone started? Super cool, changed everything. What are we at? iPhone, 15?
16.
Oh,
Yes.
it's 16? Yeah, it's going to take a minute. So it's not the end all be all. And I think a lot of
But
people are scared of it.
like what you were saying, two-dimensional is the same with brands that they're only thinking about the founder. And the
Yes.
founder, you're not just the only problem to resolve. And this I'm talking about any kind of brands, not only beauty brands. You might have a problem, but you need to make sure that others ones have it as well. And
Yes. I mean, you're
also, you need to know your numbers because if there are not enough people having that problem, you might not be able to get the return of investment.
That's a great point. That, yeah, you might be solving a problem, but is it for 10 people or is it for 10,000 people? That's a
Yes.
big difference. A lot of investment has to go into a new product. So is it worth it? Now, that one, I'll give you the ROI, the classic KPI of return on investment
Yeah,
for
oh,
sure.
absolutely. I seen, and I tell this story so many times that my husband is a product designer. And there's so many people that come to him with product ideas. And
Mhm.
the first thing he asks is, did you do your research? And nobody did it. And there were always someone who did it before, very few times that we found something so unique. Then cost of manufacture, what is gonna cost you? But then what is your market research? It's someone interested in then in buying your product. And you need to know all these things before you start investing
Yes.
or
I
finding
mean, think
investors.
about, I was going to say, think about Shark Tank, that you have to have, that's the right one, right? Where you propose your product and
The pitch,
whether or
yeah.
not it's good enough. But if you don't do your research, then again, where's the authenticity of it? What problem am I solving? Is there efficacy to it if it's, a beauty brand, things like that. So a lot has to go into building your brand other than I'm so passionate about X product and let me tell you why I'm so passionate. Everybody's passionate about something, but you're right. There's tons of them out there for the most part.
And so get your data. Get data
Yes,
doesn't lie. So when you're gonna go and get any kind of product, you need to make sure that you can be as passionate as you want, and you want to be passionate, and you want your team to be even obsessed with your product, because that's what is going to make you wake up in the morning and keep going. But you want to make sure that you have the data behind you, supporting you, so you know that there is someone out there, that it will take time. And I'm not going to lie about this, will take time. It's not going to be an overnight success, because actually you should be afraid of an overnight success. And but you need to make sure that you have all the pieces of the puzzle,
mhm,
so later on you can really build that brand and be successful.
totally agree. Totally agree. And it goes, it's the old trajectory of can I attract the customer? Can I engage them? Will they convert? And then will they come back? So you have to kind of think about all of these in your product. You might be able to engage them, but nobody's buying it because there's another competitive product that's better. Or I took in this new awesome customer base They're not very interested. Okay, well, then what do you do? Or they buy it once and don't come back. That's a problem too. Since they're guess what? They're your new marketers. They're telling other people about it. They're posting, they're sharing. Then you have to treat your consumer the right way. I mean, and that's comes back to how do people consume, the consumption
Yeah,
element.
absolutely. Before we go, and I promise this will be my last question, um, because you've been in so many spaces. You went from denim to a store like Nordstrom, but then you were in a beauty related. What do you see? Because I'm a big believer that you cannot put just brands, whatever brand your category you are in, just put it in a box. You're part of the trend. You're part of a bigger ecosystem of how you interconnect. So, how do you see the future of retail interconnecting brands or not?
It's a great question because some of it's we have to wait and see. Some of it is interpreting again how your customer is consuming your product and where, and what are the right channels. That's a big piece of it too. And understanding everything from the product development and the packaging, the whole circle of the branding and the product. Where does it fit in to what retail element? And I think you've said this also before is you need to come out of the gate sort of knowing who your audience is. It could certainly evolve and change, but you can't come out of the gate saying we're going to target just Gen Z. That's it. Are you sure
Well,
that's the right
also
way
because
to
your
go?
audience is going to evolve. Your Gen
Yeah.
Z is going to grow, and they're going to be then comes Gen Alpha. So you need to make very strategic decisions. How you gonna be keep growing with your audience, but at the same time keep bringing new audiences as well.
Well, and are generations even going to be relevant anymore? The fact that the boomer generation, everyone discounted them several years ago, and now look at the spending in that space, the 60, 70, 80-year olds. And, Gen X, we feel a little bit ignored, but there's a lot of spending power in Gen X. Millennials, no one talks about millennials anymore, but they were, everybody was focused on them. So I think that might be a little bit outdated. The fact that we all have to target Gen Z.
Uh, Absolutely. So again, unless very certain products that is very child focused in certain age or
Sure,
mature
sure,
skin,
sure.
I don't believe in boxes. I think we had to do it because we didn't have other tools before.
Mm,
Now we
great
can
point.
target people by interest, by other things, even
Yes.
by zip code or what they like. Even, I mean, you can
Well,
target if they like Madonna music.
you'll notice the 80s is super trendy, and even the
Yeah.
dress and the clothes, the clothing and the style and everything. And I mean, I'm still waiting for somebody, a brand to, and maybe if you have gone after the daughter, the mother, and the grandmother. I think Olay did that at one point
Hmm.
because it's a huge opportunity. People are living longer. Women over 60, 70, 80 are really, back into their skincare and how they look and feel and are they changing their hair
But
or
guess what? You have the younger generations teaching them that and the
yeah,
importance.
great point. It's a great point because they consume in a different way than certainly a Gen Z. So do we level that out? Are you going to send a 75-year-old? Are you going to target her in a Sephora? Maybe not, but could you target her in an Ulta and Target? For sure. Are you going to advertise on TikTok for a 75-year-old? Not likely. So thinking about your
But maybe
channels.
you're gonna.
But
I think it's seasonal too. You can advertise in TikTok when it's the time to give a gift for the holidays for grandma or for your mother.
Mm, sure, sure. But grandma's not shopping on TikTok, most likely.
No, but
But in
you could buy for a gift for grandma.
that's true. And in a store environment, they need to look at too, is it just older women coming in? That's another one that, sort of I get a little disgruntled about is people saying, department stores, oh, they're so old. And that's still the bulk of the business for a an older beauty brand, somebody that's been around for a long time. The bulk of their business is still in a department store. So we need to respect that and understand that they might be changing. Certainly, Saks and Neiman's combining, and then Nordstrom being bought. So a lot of these things are going to change. I've heard that I believe Lord and Taylor might be coming back. So, but they're still staying on the trajectory of customers are still consuming with us, our retailers. Now, it might be more online, it might be in the social space, but they're still extremely relevant. And we'll continue to see that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, Kate, thank you so much. This was such a great talk, and we went all over the place, but I loved every minute
You
of
did.
it.
You did. I had such a blast. And as you can see, I'm very passionate about it. So don't forget, people buy things, but they pay for experiences. So I hope we have
Exactly.
other consumers out there that love to consume. Keep doing it.
Yes, it's what it keeps the economy going.
Absolutely.
And to you guys, thank you for being here today, and I will see you next week with more coffee number 5. Find everything you need at larashmoisman.com or in the episode notes right below. Don't forget to subscribe. It was so good to have you here today. See you next time. Catch you on the flip side. Ciao, ciao.